Spencer and Monique Tepe were found in their home deceased on December 30th, 2025. The friends and coworkers of Spencer Tepe and Monique Tepe had called for welfare checks. We learned later that the initial welfare check carried out by local police had gone to the wrong location. Ultimately, it seems that it was a friend that had gotten into the residence and their front door had a door code. I don't know if the friend had a door code or got a door code from family members, but their friend got into the home and then unfortunately discovered Spencer Tepe, called back to 911, said that he had located a body, asked for help, got the kids out of the house. The two children were distressed but unharmed. They are 4 and 1 years old. And the dog or dogs in the home were also unharmed. Law enforcement showed up and both Spencer and Monique Tepe were declared deceased at the scene. And then there's not a lot of information between that happening on December 30th and the arrest on January 10th. Law enforcement put out a video of very clearly individual walking in the alley near the home and some ring camera footage. And ultimately, in the probable cause affidavit, said that that video connected the individual to a car. The car is the defendant's car, and we don't know much more than that at this point. And then the first court date for Michael McKee was Monday the 12th, and we're going to take a look at that. What we know about Michael McKee is that he is the ex-husband of victim Monique Tepe, that they were married on August 22nd, 2015. They had no children in that marriage. She filed for divorce on May 2nd, 2017. It was a pretty standard divorce filing. They were not married for a significantly long period of time. The defendant, Michael McKee, was in his medical residency at that time. He is a vascular surgeon. The divorce finalized June 15th, 2017. We're going to go to court, and then we are going to look at information that has come out since then.
Yes, at this time, Your Honor, on behalf of Mr. McKee, I will assert his right to counsel. I will assert his right to remain silent. And Mr. McKee believes that the most expeditious manner in which he may defend himself against the charges pending in Ohio and to plead not guilty would be to waive his right to an extradition hearing and to have a governor's warrant and to agree to his immediate transportation to Ohio.
Understood, thank you. We will set this matter then for 2 o'clock on Monday for status on the transfer.
Thank you.
Anything else we can do today?
Not from the
So when Michael McKee went to court in Illinois, which is where he was arrested, he, per his attorney, asserted his right to counsel, of course, his right to remain silent. His attorney said that he believed what was in his best interest was to waive the extradition proceedings for immediate transfer to Ohio so he can go to Ohio and plead not guilty to the charges against him. And the court said, is there anything else? No? Okay. So he will be extradited from Illinois to Ohio, where he will have an arraignment hearing put on calendar once he is transported. How long will that take? It will probably be sometime this week, but it might be at the end of the week. It will just depend. So I will keep an eye on that, and then he will be arraigned. But since the initial arrest warrant was filed for him on January 10th, there was a subsequent complaint filed on January 11th with new charges. So we're going to take a look at the January 10th complaint and warrant, and then we'll look at the January 11th complaint and warrant. This is the January 10th, 2026, filed at 10:57 a.m. So complaint number 1, or complaint on count 1, is that the above named defendant at Franklin County, Columbus, Ohio, on or about the 30th day of December 2025 did knowingly cause the death of another, to wit, Monique Tepe, by means of shooting her with a firearm. This is charged under section 2903.02a, felony unclassified degree, and that is signed and dated and signed. It's a complaint signed for arrest warrant, which you can see at the bottom. We then have the complaint on count 2 for victim Spencer Tepe, same language, by means of shooting with a firearm. This is under the same code section, 2903.02a. The same arrest warrant information sought. And then we have a brief statement in support of probable cause signed by who I am assuming is the lead investigator. It says on December 30th, 2025 at 9:57 a.m., Columbus Police Patrol officers were dispatched to check on the well-being of a Dr. Spencer Tepe who had not shown up for work. Officers arrived and found Dr. Tepe and his wife, Monique Tepe, deceased inside, suffering from gunshot wounds. 2 minor children were found inside the home unharmed. Columbus Fire Medic number 7 responded and pronounced both victims deceased at 10:11 a.m. Columbus Police Homicide Unit Team 2 was advised, responded, and initiated the investigation. Due to the subsequent investigation, detectives were able to identify a suspect through neighborhood video surveillance. This suspect was tracked to a vehicle which arrived just prior to the homicide and left shortly after the homicides. Detectives were able to identify this vehicle further and link it to Michael McKee. Detectives located the vehicle in Rockford, Illinois, and found evidence of Mr. McKee in possession of the vehicle prior to and after the homicides. That is a brief statement of probable cause. There is going to be a lot more information there, and I imagine the video of the individual in the vicinity of the home at and around the time of the shooting and then the car is going to be more. So let's take a look at the document from January 11th with the new charges in this case. So complaint on count 1 is at Franklin County, Columbus, Ohio, on or about the 30th day of December, 2025. The defendant did purposely, with prior calculation and design, cause the death of another, to wit, Monique Tepe, by means of shooting the victim multiple times with a firearm. Do we see the difference in language? It is a noticeable difference in language. We now have all of the first-degree murder language in here. So they have elevated this charge to a premeditated murder under section 2903.01a. So this changes the charge to the premeditated version. They also changed the way that they describe the death. This is now by means of shooting the victim multiple times with a firearm versus cause the death of another by means of shooting her with a firearm. So the premeditation is the difference in charge, which means this charge is now punishable by life without the possibility of parole or the death penalty, which is still available in Ohio, though through my cursory look at it, not regularly carried out in Ohio, but is something they can choose to pursue for this charge. So that's the material difference here, is that they have changed this to the first-degree premeditated murder. This is also the same change of charge for Spencer Tepe. Purposely, with prior calculation and design, cause the death of another, to wit, Spencer Tepe, by means of shooting the victim multiple times with a firearm, under 2903.01a in Ohio. Let's take a look at a new statement from Spencer's family. Spencer Tepe's family quickly believed wife's ex involved in killing. It does not surprise me when you are looking at a circumstance that is a targeted case. Emily, why do you say that? You have a case that doesn't appear to be a burglary, that doesn't appear to be a confrontation like outside of a home, that does not appear to have other things going on in the neighborhood. So it appears initially more targeted. And with that, you are immediately going to start looking at circles of who is connected to both individuals. Like in the Murdaugh case, like who's going on to Alec Murdaugh's property randomly out in the middle of nowhere where it is absolutely as dark as a cave and in the middle of their family property. You're starting to look at circles of who is connected. And so I'm not surprised that the family is wondering who is in these circles of who's connected. So let's take a look at what the family had to say. The article says that Spencer Tepe's brother-in-law said the family quickly believed that the ex-husband of Spencer's wife had something to do with the killing of the married couple. NBC News reported Rob, Spencer's brother-in-law, said that Michael David McKee, Monique Tepe's ex-husband, quote, was an emotionally abusive person when they were together. That is all I know. So that is more information from the family. I don't think we've heard anything directly from Monique's family. So we are hearing what either Monique or Spencer told to their brother-in-law. So from what we have covered today, just to summarize, in the double homicide of Monique and Spencer Tepe, the ex-husband of Monique Tepe was arrested on Saturday, January 10th in Illinois, went to court on January 12th in Illinois and waived extradition proceedings and agreed to be forthwith transferred back to Ohio to then be arraigned and face the charges against him. On January 11th, new charges were filed. Originally, this was filed as a murder, which is akin to a second-degree murder, not a premeditated murder. That punishment would have been 15 years to life. On the 11th, they filed elevated charges for both victims that were premeditated murder, indicated that both victims were shot multiple times and killed subsequent to that charge. The elevated aggravated murder charge, which is synonymous with a first-degree murder charge, is a charge that carries the potential of life without the possibility of parole or the death penalty in that case. It's going to depend on what the prosecution choose to pursue. I imagine that we will see that decision made substantially down the road. What happens next? Well, it's going to take time for transportation from Illinois to Ohio. Then there will be an arraignment. At the arraignment, we will see, I imagine, the defendant enter a plea of not guilty. However, if the defendant is interested in hiring private counsel, you can also see the circumstances where the public defender stands in for the arraignment and says, we need to put this over. The defendant is interested in hiring private counsel, or you can have the case arraigned and set it for bail and bond hearing, or you can have it arraigned, set for preliminary hearing. It just depends on what they choose to do. So I imagine we will see an arraignment on this case maybe at the end of this week, maybe at the beginning of next week, and then we will see what the next court dates will be from there. What we can see after arraignment are, well, they're going to undergo the discovery process, but if there is a bond or bail hearing, we will hear more facts about the case and how they know this defendant is the defendant, why they think he's a risk to the community or a flight risk, and determine whether or not there will be bond or bail, or this might stay a no bail case, which I imagine is what Ohio would do on an LWOP case. Most jurisdictions have no bail on life without parole cases as kind of the default. So from there, we would likely see a preliminary hearing set. Again, we saw that in the Koberger case, and then they went grand jury and we never saw a preliminary hearing. But if they do a preliminary hearing, then we will learn more facts about the case as it makes its way towards a trial date, probably next year at the soonest. So from here, it is going to be a slower process. I don't know how much more information we will see outside of court, but we will see information within the court process as this case moves forward. I agree with you. There are a lot of questions about why. Absolutely agree. We're not going to have answers to those questions at this point. The things we will see answers to more quickly are things like how and what happened. We are still pending final result on an autopsy, but given what was pled in the recent complaint, I imagine what we will see is that it is a manner of death, homicide, cause of death, gunshot wounds, or multiple gunshot wounds. We might have more information from an autopsy down the road. We will probably hear more information about the probable cause connecting the defendant to not only the car, the location, and the crime. and then we will go from there. Thanks for joining me. If you enjoyed this episode and don't want to miss updates on your favorite cases, you're going to need the LawNerd app at lawnerd.com. That way you can stay in the loop on the cases that matter most to you, and you never know when you're going to catch feelings for a new case. So make sure you get it for free on iOS and Android. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being a Law Nerd.